All right, we are live with Tess Deveze. I can't wait to tell you all about her. So we're going to just check the live connection. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and inside of Tess's private Facebook group. My name is Andrea Wilson Woods, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cancer University. Please use this time, everybody. Make sure we're live. I'm also a patient advocate, author, speaker, and podcaster. I had the extreme pleasure of interviewing Tess on the Cancer Youth Thrivers podcast, and that episode will be out later this year. But I'm thrilled to have her back today. So Tess is an occupational therapist, somatic sexologist, and she is fighting stage 3 breast cancer. Personally experiencing the severe impact treatments have had on her intimacy and how often this topic is ignored, Tess's goal is to help as many people as she can and to support everyone impacted by cancer. We are talking about Tess's book today, A Better Normal, Your Guide to Rediscovering Intimacy After Cancer. And I'm so excited. We will drop the link in the chat. Tess, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. Good morning. Good afternoon where you are.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Let's see. We're live on LinkedIn for sure. All right. I'm going to keep going. So
I'm unable to see the Facebook Live.
Okay. Fingers crossed. Someone let us know in the chat. All right. This is one of my favorite sections from Tess's book. What am I? We're not supposed to talk about it. You can't have too much of it. You can't have too little of it. It's used in nearly all marketing to sell, but it's never presented accurately in the media. It's a part of human life. Social media platforms shut you down for talking about it. People who are different, unwell, older, living with disability, are of different cultures and ethnicities, are assumed to not have it or to want it. We receive no education on it, yet we're supposed to magically be good at it, and we're supposed to always want it. And then she adds, yep, that would be sex.
Yeah.
So Tess, tell us. Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. So tell us what it is that you do.
Oh, big question. So occupational therapists we're functional. So in non-English speaking countries, we're called functional therapists. And we just look at the things that people do day to day. So showering, dressing, cooking, catching a bus, or sex. And so as an OT, I would include sexuality in my work in spinal cord injury and brain injury. And that I was also at the time a sexuality, communication and consent educator for about a decade in the Melbourne, Australia community, and now global online. And then I was diagnosed with cancer, and I experienced so many side effects sexually, just like everything. But I had no one to turn to. No one would talk to me about it. No one would help me through it. And I had to be my own sex therapist during treatments, which was not great. And so then during treatments, I studied somatic sexology because I was like, you know what? If I'm the one with all the training and I'm struggling this much, I can't imagine how hard this is for everybody else. So that was my motivator. And so now I just support people with disability as well. I work in sexuality and disability as well as sexuality and cancer. And I just try and help people access better quality of life, loving relationships, connection to themselves, more like self-confidence. Sexuality is a big topic. So I do a lot.
Yes. I'm so excited to talk about it with you today. So if you look in the comments, I dropped a link to Tess's book, A Better Normal, Your Guide to Rediscovering Intimacy After Cancer. But as she just said, she supports a lot of different people, not just people who are currently fighting cancer. So Tess, I want you to tell us, what is the difference between desire, libido, and arousal? I know you can talk for hours, but you tell us, what is the difference between desire, libido, and arousal? Oh, I hear something in the background.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, I have. Sorry, I just had a massive Facebook Live echo. So desire. So think of desire as the wanting, the lusty feelings that we have. So I call, like, desire and libido I use interchangeably for each other. It's that wanting. And arousal is what happens when we're in pleasure. So our pupils dilate, our breathing increases, we have more sensitive skin. Maybe we do things like lubricate, or have we get hard or wet, like words that are commonly used. So that's the arousal responses, but it's very different to the wanting. So libido and desire is wanting, and arousal is enjoying. And there's a big difference. Arousal, it's very physiological. It's also neurological. Everything is neurological because our brain is our largest sex organ. But the desire and libido is particularly all reliant on what's happening in here. It's not really about what's down there. And so people get that a little, and it's very important because you can rehabilitate libido and you can rehabilitate arousal, but it's very important to know the difference between the two and understanding how they work in the body.
Oh, that is so well said. And we are taking questions toward the end, but go ahead and comment. Someone has already said they're really looking forward to reading your book. Yes, read it. It is a very easy read, and Tess breaks down things. And also, she's just really damn funny. So I'm saving my favorite line for a little bit later. So tell us what you meant by this line. I thought this was actually a really beautiful line where you say intimacy and affection are small giants.
So I'm very big on the visual analogies, especially in my book. And so intimacy just drops off. It's normal. We're fighting cancer, and look at what treatments do to us. And, and as well for the people around us who are on treatments, it's really scary and stressful. So it's very normal for things like intimacy and affection to kind of drop off, especially for partners who are really scared of touching their partners because they don't want to hurt them. Maybe there's surgery sites, radiotherapy burns, chemo, sensitivity. But without that affection and intimacy, it's very difficult to want things like sex. And so I call intimacy and affection like a bridge, So you've got not having sex, having sex, but like what's in between, and to want sex, the wanting, that libido, we want to feel loved. We want to feel attractive. We want to feel safe. And we want to feel that connection with ourselves or with a partner. So I call them small giants because I just honestly, you ignore the sex to get to the sex. You actually want to reconnect with the people around, and it's so little, like kiss. Have a good night kiss every night, something as small as that. Or, touch, hold hands, or put your arm around someone in the kitchen and express, words of love, hey, I really love you. I just wanted to share. And all of these little things, like they're so small, these little giants. They're pretty powerful in the libido and intimacy recovery.
And I just want to add, Tess has in her book questions. So if you don't know how to phrase something or ask for something, she has lots and lots of questions, words that you can use to ask for what you want. Now I wanted to...
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm really proud of that. I think that that's one of the most useful. I mean, it's a very practical book. I'm an OT and a sexologist. It's very practical, but what I noticed when I was facilitating sexuality workshops was every time someone would put their hand up when I would say something like, yeah, all you need to do is communicate about this. And they're like, can you give me an example? And it was very helpful. The sentence strings, literal, like lists and lists for the people listening. Like it's literally dot point quotes of how you can communicate intimately or with your healthcare professionals or with each other. Because we're not taught this. It's tricky.
Yeah, you're right. We're not taught it. And yes, the sentence strings are incredibly helpful. I mean, it is a very practical book and a very funny book. So now I want to get on the topic of spontaneity versus intention. And before we went live, I told you that as a caregiver for my sister who battled cancer when she was a teenager and didn't survive, I was very intentional with her. I mean, I kept track of all her labs. I knew when she could go outside safely and see friends and be in the world. And I was very cognizant of that. So was she. And we planned everything around her health. So that part I understood. But then I started thinking about it when I was in my previous marriage, and the thought to actually plan time to be intimate was it was hard for both of us, but especially my now ex-husband. Like, he just didn't like this idea that it had to be planned.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, I hear a lot from clients and the people I support online. There's a lot of grief around the spontaneity. And I'm not going to say to you that it's easy. It's loss, but different doesn't have to mean bad. So also think about when it was spontaneous. You know, maybe you were healthy. Maybe you had more time on your hands. Maybe you had more energy, and you know it was easier to be spontaneous. You know, you're ripping each other's clothes off in the television commercial break. Like, that's amazing. That's wonderful. But without cancer, even just standard partnership life patterns, life gets in the way, and the spontaneity does decrease. But with cancer treatments, I call it intentional. You know, it's not spontaneous sex, it's intentional sex. And yeah, maybe you do need to organize it, but it also shows. So my partner and I say this all the time. We're like, I really miss you. I want to connect with you. I love you. Can we please organize a time where we're really rested and we're there for each other? And I just like, oh my God, it's so hot. Like, yes, thank you for thinking about me. Thank you for wanting to be intimate and caring about when it's going to be right for me. So it's intentional, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. You know, it shows caring, it shows love. And again, you know, I know that the spontaneity, it's not going to be there, and that's okay. It might come back after treatments, but please don't feel like it's the end of your intimacy or the end of your sex. You know, having a date night every week it's pretty fun, because you know how when you meet someone or you're dating and you've got that anticipation and the excitement, you know, it's the exact same thing. You're like, oh my God, I've got a date coming up with my partner. What are we going to do? This is exciting. You know, it can still be fun, you know. And by the way, you know, people say like dating spontaneity. I'm like, no, it's not actually. Dating is extremely scheduled and planned.
Oh, yes.
But it's you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So I want to just mention something on this same topic where you say the assumption that we need to be intimate at the end of the day is ludicrous, as that's generally when we are tired, the most tired. And you talk about getting intimate before dinner. I could not agree with you more on this. My partner knows late afternoon, especially if it's raining, love it, love it. But then you just have this line. I just want to share it because it made me laugh out loud. Why can't eating deep fried chicken in bed while watching Star Trek be good for our bodies?
Oh, that's my
I just want to get people
exercise.
I just want to give people a sense of the book is funny too. It's very helpful. It's a very how-to, but it's very funny. And I do understand we have people watching. I do understand if you're shy about posting any questions or comments. So be sure to get Tess's book and reach out to her on Facebook, and we will have links to all of that. But I do understand if you're a little shy.
Yeah,
so
and that's actually the reason why I wrote it, because people are scared to reach out. So you can read the book in the privacy of your own home. You know, it's for you. Even under the covers, you can accidentally leave it for your partner to read. I wanted it to be accessible for the people that are still a bit embarrassed about it, because we all are kind of. It's tricky. It's really tricky.
Yeah. You know, actually on the topic of the book or the title, A Better Normal, tell us why you don't like that very overused phrase, new normal. So
I hate those words. The amount of times, and it's funny with COVID, new normal's getting used a lot in Australia. I don't know if it is in the States.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, new normal. I hand gesture here. Like, what do you know? Hand gig. I feel like when people say, or healthcare professionals say, okay, so this is your new normal, they're kind of like, off you go, deal with it. This is how it's
Accept
going to
it,
be.
move on.
Just suck it up. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. Like I do not like this normal. This is not normal. And a lot of people who are having intimacy struggles post treatments, because it doesn't get talked about, they think that their struggles are unique to them alone, and there's no support and there's no hope. And so they're suffering in silence, thinking that this is the new normal, but we can make it better. So it's kind of my little like annoyance in a very obvious way at a new normal, because we actually can make it better, which is what the book is about. It's practical solutions. But yeah, I think a lot of people, we can't, especially are the non-active treatments. So I'm on hormone treatments right now and I'm struggling. In particular, I think people who are on the longer types of treatments, they're just told, yeah, this is your new normal, accept it. Like, but this is horrible. No. Yeah.
So talk about what you mean by this. Remove the goal, remove the pressure.
Oh, you're really, really jumping in.
Yes, we are.
So this is going to sound really strange, but okay. So sexuality is pretty much neurological. I've said this before. This is our largest sex organ, not what's down there. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves around intimacy. And remember at the start, Andrea, how you were like, what am I? We can't talk about it, but we have to be good at it. And we have to want it all the time.
And it's used to sell everything.
Yeah, right. Everything.
Everything.
So I guess we're kind of, there's this almost societal pressure on us to want it all the time and be good at it.
Yeah.
But that I call it should brain. It actually interferes with us wanting it. And so I'm going to use Viagra as an example. Perfect example. So Viagra, people think that it's a pill for libido. It's not. Libido is wanting. Viagra gets blood flow to a particular organ of the body. It creates an arousal response. But Viagra doesn't work if you're anxious, if you're stressed, if you feel pressure. And it's just perfect. Even with medication, our brain is controlling our sex. So when we feel pressured to want it or have it, when we feel obligated or it feels like a chore, we're not going to want it. And that's actually going to neurologically disassociate our desire for sex, our experience of it being a good thing. We're going to start to associate sex as something that is an obligation and pressure, and we're just not going to want it. So if you remove that pressure, if you if you take sex off the table for a little while, even if you're not having it right now, and I'm being very generalist in the word sex right now because it's huge, but if you take it off the table, even if you're not having it, but actually saying, okay, for 3 weeks, no sex, but we're going to touch and we're going to kiss. You remove the pressure, and then what do you know? Because that oh God, where's this going to go? If I touch you, you're going to think I want sex. I'm not going to touch you because I'm not ready for that. It hurts, or I'm ashamed of my body. All of these things, you're just getting rid of it. And it's amazing. Like, it's the neurological recipe for change. Being relaxed, removing the anxieties and the stress, and being able to enjoy touch. That was very long-winded and ranty. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't. It's great.
Oh, so much to say.
I just want to tell people too that I would recommend Tess's book for anyone, even if you are physically in top shape, if you're having difficult in a marriage that is sex starved. I wish this book had existed many, many, many years ago. And a lot of it's just the way Tess puts things. And that brings me to my next point. You many, 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 many times in many different ways say, no pain, no pain. And you stress it over and over and over. And I would love for you to, as someone who has just dealt with pain, it's like, oh, it's going to be painful. I'll get over it in, a minute or two, maybe. I really appreciate this. So I would love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, I need to give credit to a different sex therapist. I wish I coined that phrase. It's so clever. So you know the phrase "no pain, no gain."
Right.
You know, it could apply to going to the gym. It applies for so much. And actually, when you think about it, it's really, really weird thing to say to people. Force yourself to hurt yourself. What? Why? But when it comes to intimacy, it should never hurt. You know, if it hurts, stop. And this goes back to, again, I'm a broken record, but the way our brain is wired around pleasure, just like that feeling like it's a chore or it's something you should do. If it hurts, you're not going to want it. But also you're doing more damage. You know, it depends on why it hurts. But particularly, I'm going to refer to people, say, with vaginal atrophy or vaginismus. Oh, geez, all of it, vulvodynia. So in particular, we feel that we need to force ourselves to get through it. Some clinicians tell their patients use it or lose it, which is awful. That's actually a neuroscience phrase for neurological rehabilitation. I would explain that to my patients in the spinal cord injury ward 8 times a day, but it's not musculoskeletal. And what people are doing is they feel like, you know, use it or lose it. They feel like, okay, my only choice is to force myself to have a very painful experience and to force my partner to cause me pain. And it's very damaging. Now, it comes from the fact that blood flow is incredible for healing tissues. So, but you can get blood flow to the pelvis in many ways. You don't have to be penetrated. You can go for a walk. You know, that's not causing you pain. Or maybe if you have bone pain, go for a very slow, gentle walk when it's like a nice temperature. But, you know, you could pleasure yourself externally. You can have a bath, you know. And so I guess like the no pain thing is, we don't want to do more damage, but we're also, it's a stressful experience. It creates anxiety and it hurts relationships. Causing pain, it's not good. So I guess when you say, like, say you're intimate with someone and it hurts, people are really scared to like, oh, I have to keep going. We can't stop now. I'm like, yeah, you can stop. You can just say things like, oh, hey, you know, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable. Do you mind passing the lube? Or, oh, hey, look, this is starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. Can I maybe offer you something with my hands or my mouth? You know, there's alternatives. Or like, would you like to self-pleasure yourself while I kiss your body? You know, I want to keep being intimate with you, but it's just a bit sore right now. Is there something else we can try? Again, that's the quotes in the book, you know, how to say these things. But there's so many more possibilities, and sex should never hurt. Blanket statement. I'm not big on generalizations, but that one I'm 100% on. Should never hurt.
Oh, I love that. And I just know too many women who, and these are not women who've ever had cancer, but when they got into menopause, sex hurt. And so they just turn that part of their body off. And gosh, how can you do that? I mean, it's like breathing, you know, it's part of who you are. So I appreciate you saying that. And as you can see, she's already talking about lube. So she gives very practical tips. So we're going to save my favorite line of the whole book is coming up in a bit. But again, Tess's book is in the chat. We will put it afterwards in the notes. But if you have any comments or questions, I promise we will not call you out. So if you want to put a comment, question, and then, you know, if you want to delete it later, go ahead. That's fine. Okay. So you have some super practical tips. And this is one that really jumped out at me because I had never heard of it before. I never thought about it before. And let me pull that up. It's remove photos.
Oh, Andrea, I've lost you. I hope you can still hear me.
And reminders. World death here. There we are. We're back. Okay. So tell us about, why you want to remove photos. Talk about that.
Because I'm me, I did a survey with a lot of cancer patients because I'm like, I need the data, I need the stats. And I asked, what's what the number one thing you're struggling with? And about 73% of, it's only 250 people, small sample size,
That's
but
pretty decent sample.
73%, yeah, said body image, the changes in their body. And I'm not just referring to loss of hair and weight changes and scarring, but also loss of function. And so in the book, I have a whole chapter on things that can help you improve or shift in a positive way how you feel about yourself. So the way we see ourselves impacts the way we feel about ourselves, and the way we feel about ourselves impacts how we interact with the world and the people around us, and our self-confidence and self-esteem. But there's not much. I really struggled to find resources on this topic. So I had this light bulb moment. Facebook, you know how Facebook shows you those, you were doing this 5 years ago. It was just this time when I was like hiking the Grand Canyon, and it was like I was so fit and like long hair, and it was like just this reminder of the body I used to have. I was just looking at like, oh my God, I had so much energy. I could go camping. I could get out of bed. Oh, I hate my body now. And I was like, whoa, this is happening. So I invite people to get rid of the photos of your old self. They're the reminders of the old you. It's a reminder of what you've lost. And yes, it's loss and we need to grieve. But a part of that process is maybe take some new photos of yourself where you look good and you feel good, and have them around your house, or turn off the reminders on Facebook. You know, it's really difficult to process what we've lost when we keep getting reminded of what we've lost. And I think a stepping stone to body acceptance and body love is, you know, find some clothes, even if you need to buy a different wardrobe or borrow things off friends or go to a thrift store or a secondhand store. Just find something with a really nice material that you feel good in, and take some photos in that, you know, have that around your house. It's like, it's a very small thing, but it can help create that shift, you know, get rid of those reminders.
Oh, I love that. Quick question. Someone's asking about the link for the book. So apparently if I post something, it will not go out to LinkedIn. It will go to YouTube. So if my amazing partner could take that little link I just put in the chat and put that on LinkedIn, I would really appreciate it. But no matter what, after, we will have all of those links there. All right. So I want to go to tip number 2 that I really loved. And again, she has way more tips than we're able to cover, but this is another one I really, really liked because I never heard it before. So I think a lot of people who get cancer are told to keep a food diary, or if you're having any food issues, you know, you're told to keep that food diary. I mean, I know I've done it and everything, but I've never heard this quite phrased like this before. Keep a fatigue diary. I thought it was brilliant. So tell us why we should do that.
So this is very OT. We're trained in energy conservation and pain management and fatigue management. So it's a very, very OT related section of the book. But our energy impacts everything, everything, as well as our desire, as well as our enjoyment, as well as our pleasure. And fatigue and cancer are, they go hand in hand. And fatigue can last years after treatments. You know, it's not chemo's finished, I'm fine now. And so that can actually be the main barrier between people connecting and being intimate again and sexual again. So a really neat trick is, I actually did this with pain as well. I tracked my fatigue and my pain. So I just kept a diary and I used a number system, you know, and so it would be like, okay, I'm a 4 out of 10 in the morning. I'm actually a 2 out of 10 when I went for a walk, and I'm like, oh, I'm an 8 out of 10 at the end of the day. And what I did, like, it helps you find patterns. And so it'll help you find the time in the day or the time in the week where you're less tired and you have more energy. And that can help you then intentionally plan time with your partner, you know, so you can use your energy, that sweet spot of, don't worry about going to the shops, find a shortcut, get someone to do that for you, get intimate with your partner or yourself instead, you know, because it's about living. You know, that saying, it's about living, not surviving. Like intimacy is a
Yes.
really big part of living. And the fatigue, I just need to share, I have the worst fatigue at the moment. I'm an insomniac from my treatments. I'm struggling. And the diary, it's just helping me so much. So it's not just me saying you should do this. I'm like, I'm doing this and it's helping me. That's why it's in the book.
What patterns have you identified for yourself lately?
Oh God, exercise is good.
Well, you do say that in the book. Okay.
Oh, it's so good and it's so horrible because
it's so true.
Exercise.
It is. It is. I actually just want to add too, for women, if you're struggling with desire, exercise is really good.
Oh,
It's
yoga.
really good.
Blood flow, all the joints moving. It's breath, it's strength building. Yoga is amazing for sexual function, by the way. Again, it's getting the pelvis moving, getting blood flow. So my patterns are, at the moment, they're pretty bad, but the mornings are like right now, this is my energy moment and I'm about to crash. 11 a.m. is the time where I'm on the couch, and then I'll eat something. I'm struggling to eat at the moment, and then at 1 I'll have some, I'll be able to like see a client or do some online stuff, and then I'll have to like have another break. And then I might be able to do something like go for a walk or see a partner. And then after dinner, I am useless. Like, even though I'm wide awake in my brain, insomnia, my body is just a mess. So there's that disconnect too. You know, you could be wide awake, you could be very functional in your brain, but your body's like, nope, can't do that. So I'm very sporadic. I need to have rest breaks throughout the day. And the fatigue diary helped me figure that out, and it's saving me. I live alone. I support myself. So I think without the fatigue diary, I don't know where I'd be living, to be honest. It's the thing that's helped me got through all of it.
Oh, and I would recommend that for anyone struggling. If you're struggling with sleep, I have a terrible time sleeping. I always have. But it's strange, but my best time of day is actually 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for creative endeavors. Like, that's my best time to write and create content. And that's why I don't like to do email in the morning, because to me, that doesn't take a lot of creativity, and I can do that in the afternoon.
That's really good. I like that. Yeah. Great tip.
Now, Tess has some, even on the Kindle version, you can see them. It's really cool. She has some graphs in the book, these little XY things. And so I'm going to have her tell us, what is the sexy Goldilocks zone? Another thing that just cracked me up. Love it.
I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd, so I'm using like planetary intergalactic language of the, you don't need to hear about that. Focus test. So talking about libido and arousal, the wanting versus the enjoying, what treatments very commonly do to us is it actually delays our arousal responses. What that means is it takes longer for us to get into it. But because maybe we are not really enjoying things and we're not really having those like lusty feelings, and it's like, oh, people think that they don't want sex anymore, that they hate sex and they don't enjoy sex anymore. But really, we just need more time to enjoy it. We need our brain and our body. We need a little bit more time to connect. So then those arousal responses can happen, and that means we're enjoying it. So the Goldilocks zone is when both of you are at the same level of enjoying. And that's when intimacy is going to be good for both of you. And that's when you're going to want it more. So the graphs, I'm such a nerd. So I ask you in the book, like, get a pen and paper, and we're going to draw a really simple graph, and we're going to draw your arousal response, and then you cover it and you put it, you compare what you've got with your partner, and you find the gap. And what it looks like is, I'm going to be very general here, but mostly with my clients and myself, I'm like a flat line where I'm not aroused for ages, like this is time passing. And then all of a sudden, maybe like 30 minutes in, I'm like, woof, oh, okay.
Hockey stick.
Yeah, I like this. Because before chemo and cancer treatments would be like 2 minutes. Because I was like, what's wrong with me? Why I don't like sex anymore, but just need a bit more time. So it's about brainstorming. So like I write a list of suggestions in the book on how can you get to the Goldilocks zone when one person's aroused faster than the other, when one person's enjoying it a lot more. All that means is this person gets to give this person more attention. Yum. And so that could be like a massage. It could be kissing. It could be soft touch on someone's back. Not genital focused. It's about connection and giving people time to relax and get into their body. Again, the brain, sex organ. And so that's the Goldilocks zone. And it sounds quite simple, massage and back touch, but it's amazing. And then it's wonderful for partners as well. They're like, oh, I'm not bad at sex now. It's just my partner just needs more time and more attention. And I know it can be tricky to receive. You know, you're not a selfish lover. Your body reacts differently now, and you're working with that, and it's amazing. So the Goldilocks zone is both of you enjoying.
I love it. And I've never heard it described that way before. I've heard it, well, the person who has the low sex drive is the one in control. There's low sex drive, high sex drive, and that person, whoever has the low sex drive, is in control of that physical relationship, which is ridiculous and very unsettling if you're on the other side of that. But I really love the sexy Goldilocks zone. All right. So I think people are being shy. We can see that you're here. So just, again, you can post a question and then you can delete it right away. But again, if you have any questions for Tess, if you do this after we're done, please make sure to tag her, especially on LinkedIn. Otherwise, she'll never know that you had a question, and reach out to her on LinkedIn and her Facebook group. So we're going to get to my very favorite line in the book, which was hard because I had a lot, but this one just, I laughed so hard I almost cried. And I almost feel like this should be the second title of the book, but you need to follow it up with this one. So, sex is toast and lube is the spread. Oh my gosh. Love, 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 love. So funny. So funny. And so tell us, based on our bodies and what's going on, which type of lube we should use.
There's so many types. So there's water-based, wax-based, oil-based, silicone-based, sterile, hybrid. And then between them, there's
glycerin, right?
Yeah. We'll get to glycerin in a little bit, but firstly, lube is not something to be used when you're not well or when you're experiencing pain. Lube actually just makes everything better. That's why I'm like, sex is toast. Lube is the spread. Lube is the thing that makes the toast good. Okay? And now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm realizing that the toast could actually be a comparison to a dry vagina, which is
yeah.
Oh no, I just realized that. And that's funny because I have atrophy from my treatment, so that is me right now. Oh my god. But yeah, lubricants, we're told go water-based.
Yes, before we went live, I told you I was always told go water-based because I'm prone to yeast infections, or I was, and you want it to be based in water. But tell us why water-based isn't necessarily a great idea. You described it so well.
Yeah, so it can be good for some people, but so the human body, we're over 90% water. The human body is designed to absorb water. That is what, we eat food and like all the water is absorbed in our guts. When we're not well, or just in general, our vaginal canal and our rectal canal is designed to absorb water. So if you're using a water-based lubricant, it just gets sucked up really quickly like a sponge, which is fine, but you just need to keep topping it up, which can be interruptive. Or for people that aren't familiar with using lubricants, they think putting it on once is enough. But what happens is when it gets absorbed into the body, the remnants of the ingredients of the lube can create a film inside the canal, which can create more friction. So they're not
So
necessarily, so wax, oil, silicone, hybrid, and particular sterile lubes, they last longer in the human body. They're slicker longer. And particularly wax, for people that are experiencing discomfort, it creates a protective layer. So it's pretty amazing. It's about finding what's right for you. And if you're prone to UTIs and yeast infections, it might be worth looking at sterile lubricants that aren't purely water-based. So you could have a silicone and water hybrid. Hybrid just means blend. You could use a sterile hybrid. So again, it's not pure water, so it won't get sucked up quickly, but it's sterile, like it's very pure, and it's what people use in hospitals. So there's options as well. I mean, so I don't want to tell you what to use because we are all different, and it's definitely worth exploring. But if you are someone who has, say, vaginal atrophy or genital eczema, I don't have commission in this product, by the way. I'm not trying to make a sale, but it's like, it sounds really dodgy, like buy this thing. There's a product called Olive and Bee created by a pelvic physiotherapist, and it's pure wax and olive oil, and it's just sensational. I use it. I have to use dilators every day because my vaginal canal is closing due to my treatment. So dilators in the shower every day, and I use Olive and Bee every day, and it's just so wonderful. But again, be careful if you are prone to UTIs and yeast infections, because the vagina is it has a self-cleaning system, and the wax might be difficult to flush out, and that could increase your risk of, say, thrush. Same with oil-based lubricants too. Silicone's a bit better, but yeah, you got to find what's right for you.
Okay, that's good to know. I learned so much. I did. So here's another point I love. We're going to save the last tip for last. We're going to go a little bit over, but Tess is going to crash on us in 18 minutes. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So explain for us why we need time and repetition. Like what does that do in the brain?
Another visual analogy coming. Imagine that your brain imagine lots of pieces of string that connect your brain to the parts of your body, and some of them are sensation and some of them are function. And so for things like intimacy or sensation, we'll go with sensory feedback for the moment. So you haven't touched yourself, or a partner hasn't touched you in a very long time. What happens is the connections, those pieces of string, they get smaller. So it's kind of like this is use it or lose it, by the way. This is where this motto actually applies. Yeah, it's neuroplasticity. So the more you engage in something, the larger the sections in your brain get. So that's why we kind of forget a language if we don't use it all the time, because our brain's like, oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm going to focus on learning karate now, and so that was a really bad example.
No, the language is good though, because there was a short time in my life where I could speak conversational Spanish because I had to for my job. And now all I've got is como está. That's it. I don't remember any of it.
I was just about to say bien in response to French. So neuroplasticity is, so imagine, okay, there's a dirt bicycle track, and there's weeds covering it and grass, and that's your pleasure, that's your arousal, that's your sensitivity, that's your desire. And because it's a little neglected, because it's been a while since you've tended to the path, like it's pretty hard to find, there's weeds all over. It's just, it's a very, very small path. But then if we go back to using that path, the weeds disappear, you find the track more, and it gets larger. So that little dirt track becomes a 6-lane highway. So repetition is growth. So our brain, we can't do something once and our brain doesn't latch onto it. Unfortunately, neurological change is very slow, but it's very effective. So that's why I'm always banging on about, repetition and touch and getting rid of that goal. So we can create new sensory pathways with repetition of touch and focus. We have to focus. If we're like touching our arm and watching TV, nothing is going to happen up here. We're like, oh, that feels nice, but there's no neurological change happening. So repetition is the key. And I mean repetition of anything. So maybe you decide to kiss your partner a bit more. That's going to increase your pleasure pathways, even just that little thing, because you're going to be reminded, I am a vessel of pleasure. I like being touched. I like intimacy. And then, even just tiny little things like that. But because it's slow, I guess people think that it doesn't work, but there's so much going on in the background. And then all of a sudden, 4 weeks later, you're like, did I just have an orgasm from my lower back? And you're like, yeah, you did. Yeah. So it's repetition is key.
Well, that goes right into our next one. Talk about erogenous zones.
So our entire body can be an erogenous zone. And I know that we're told, what is it, like chest, buttocks, genitals. I think they're the ones that we're told, like we're taught or shown in movies. And we can lose our erogenous zones. So I've had a breast removed. So that's a loss. That's a loss of what used to be a very, very erogenous zone for me. Again, I'm so sorry. It's all neuroscience. But you can create new ones. So in brain injury, in the stroke ward, someone would have a stroke and say that they would have their left side would be affected. So I would teach them through neuroplasticity how to move their arm again, but I would also teach them how to have sensation again. I would reconnect the pathways very slowly with repetition and touch and intention. Why can't we do the exact same principles on any other part of our body, but for pleasure? So it's the exact same thing. It's science. It's clinically proven. It's just for a different outcome, which is pleasure. So I guess that's why it's taboo. But again, I overshare coming. Sorry, everyone. But as an example, so I lost my primary erogenous zone, but now my inner thighs, oh my Lord. And what I did was I would, in states of pleasure or even with myself, because it's repetition, got to keep at it every day, even if it's just 2 minutes. And when I was in a really relaxed, calm state, I would just softly touch my inner thighs and I would just think to myself, that's really nice. That feels like I really like that. That's it. And I just kept doing it. And then sometimes if I was in pleasure with a partner, I'd be like, can you touch my inner thigh? And I'd be like, that's right. I love this. And then my brain would associate that part of my body to intimacy. And then it just became an erogenous zone. So I guess it's a way of saying it's not the end. If you have had a body part removed and you've lost sensation, there are other ways. It just takes a bit of time and a little bit of focus.
Oh, I totally agree. I have a lot of erogenous zones that I know exist, but there's one that's absolutely nothing, and it's my ears. Like I just can't even stand for my ears to be touched. Now I'm going to quickly overshare before we wrap up. And I went on a date one time, and we only had the one date, and this is why. And he went to kiss me, and I thought, it's going for the lips. He went for my ear, and like straight in, like. And I said, I don't like that, but that's just anything with the ear. It's okay. And went to kiss me again. He went for the ear again. I was like, you need to go. You need to leave.
Yeah. For some, it's an amazing part of sexuality. And the neck just underneath the ear too.
No, neck is okay. Yeah. Neck is awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we are wrapping up here before LinkedIn cuts us off. So there's another tip that Tess has that I think is awesome and that we all need to do. And I love this because you're kind of getting out the taboo of it, but you say to say the word sex 10 times aloud. Why is that?
We're scared to talk about it. And if we can't talk about it, we can't address it and we can't influence change. So I ask in the book, I ask you to say sex out loud 10 times in stupid voices and stupid faces to yourself or to other people in the room. And it's just a, you know, and then I'm like, okay, you said sex 10 times, look around, you know, the roof hasn't collapsed.
That's
the
right.
world hasn't exploded. It's just a word, you know, but it can be awkward, clunky, funny, you know, it's a way to kind of normalize this word that has so much stigma and shame around it. Yeah.
And you say actually very early in your book that sex is messy and clumsy, and I love it. So true.
Yeah.
You don't see that in the movies, but so true. So true. All right. So before we wrap up, Tess, can we do the say sex 10 times aloud? Can we do it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. I don't know about, I can't do voices. I need to make my partner do this, but I will try to be goofy. Okay. All right. And if you're watching this later in the privacy of your home, you can do this with us too. It's not a big deal. Okay.
Are we going to do it at the same time?
Yeah. Let's try it at the same time.
Okay.
Ready? On three. 1,
okay.
2, 3.
Sex.
Sex, 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 sex. Okay, you make great faces. Her faces are so much better.
There you go.
I need to do it better because there's like this 2 or 3 second delay, so it's like it's making me laugh even harder. Oh gosh! And see, all I did it made me laugh. So she's right. It's not going to kill you. The roof is not going to fall in. You know. Yeah. So I want to finish with this. And I just also want to emphasize that we will have all the links, but I really, really encourage you to get Tess's book. We do have the link in one of the chats, but the book again is A Better Normal, Your Guide to Rediscovering Intimacy After Cancer. You Google that and it's definitely going to come up. Go to Amazon. She also has a private Facebook group, and I will ask her afterwards how we can put a link to that because you do have to be accepted into the group. And then we have some other fun resources and links, and the Olive and Bee one. We'll make sure we put a link to that as well. So I want to put this last thing up. I felt like this was so beautiful and all funny and kidding aside, this really spoke to me. So I'd love to wrap up with this and then give Tess the last word. Sex is your body, your connection, your arousal, your pleasure, your touch, your giving, and your receiving. And I couldn't agree more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's that pressure of sex needs to be a certain way. And if our bodies don't work that way anymore, or we're just not familiar with how our body works, and that way that you have done sex before might be different, people think that that's the end, but pleasure is endless. Our body is capable of so much. We just need to take a step back and think of it like starting from scratch, which is why, remove the goal. Like that's why I always say that in the book: repetition, connection, intimacy. And giving and receiving, it doesn't always have to be two-way. You can offer someone pleasure, and that can be extremely pleasurable for you, especially if your body's not doing what you want it to at the time. And also flipping it, receiving can be so wonderful if someone's really enjoying giving you this experience. So there's a lot to it. Sex is there's been studies where people have tried to define the word sex and they've gotten nowhere.
Really?
Yeah. It's so complicated because it's so broad. All of our bodies are completely different and we respond differently because it's neurology. So we haven't been able to define it yet.
Oh gosh. Oh, Tess, thank you so much for coming on to this live interview. Very different than what we did last time. And if you're watching and you leave a comment, please be sure to tag Tess. Otherwise, she will not see the comment. And people often leave comments days and weeks later. So Tess, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Also, this is what it looks like.
There we go.
Yeah. Look for the love heart. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun in my peak moment of the day.
That's right. That's right. She suggested the time. So if you're watching this right now, it's almost 6 o'clock Eastern time. on Thursday. And what time is it for you?
It's 9:55 a.m. on Friday, World Cancer Day.
That's right. Oh God, we didn't plan it that way either. I don't think
No,
so. No, we didn't.
happy,
All
happy
right,
coincidence.
thank you so much. Get Tess's book. Bye bye.
Bye.